You did not find this book. This book found you. It has traveled across time, not through pages or shelves, but through whispers, symbols, and silence. The fact that you are here, listening, is proof that something deep within you is ready. You may think this is just a recording, a curiosity, a story, but it is more than that. This is an invitation, an initiation, and once you begin, there is no going back. Close your eyes, take a breath, and listen carefully. The mystical book is opening, and its first secret is about to be revealed. Chapter 1: The Hidden Pattern of Reality. What if everything you've ever been told about the world is only half the truth? What if reality itself is governed by an ancient code, one hidden from the masses, preserved only by a few secret orders and mystical traditions? Welcome to the first unveiling. For centuries, humanity has sensed that there is more to existence than meets the eye. Intuitions, dreams, synchronicities, they speak a language that modern logic often discards. But what if those moments were evidence? What if they were subtle glimpses into a deeper architecture of the universe? Ancient mystics, from the high priests of Egypt to the sages of the East, have claimed that the world we see is only a veil, a projection shaped by unseen forces. They describe this veil as Maya, illusion, or the Matrix. Yet behind it lies a code, a living structure that binds thought, matter, energy, and even time. This is not metaphor. This is the beginning of understanding. The hidden blueprint. Imagine reality as a tapestry, not random, but woven. Every thread connects to another. The Hermeticists called it the law of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. This wasn't poetic, it was descriptive. Ancient texts like the Emerald Tablet didn't philosophize, they revealed. The pattern of creation, the spiral, the golden ratio, sacred geometry, shows up in seashells, galaxies, pine cones, even the structure of DNA. This is not coincidence. It is signature. The signature of something, someone, intelligent. And just like a computer runs on code, reality runs on symbols, archetypes, frequencies. Why you were never told? If such a code exists, why is it hidden? The answer lies in power. Knowledge of the code gives one the ability to bend reality, to influence outcomes, perceptions, even health and time. Those who hold this knowledge have always walked quietly, often in shadows, forming secret societies, mystery schools, hidden brotherhoods. Religion hinted at it, myth disguised it, science dismissed it, but the ones who know, they never stopped using it. Unlocking the matrix. Modern physics now dances with the same truths the ancients whispered. Quantum entanglement, observer effect, string theory, they point to a participatory universe. One where reality responds not just to force, but to awareness. You've felt it before, thinking of someone, and they call. Dreaming of an event, and it unfolds. These are not accidents. They are glitches, no, previews, of how the real code behaves. Your thoughts are not passive. They are instruments. Your emotions are not weaknesses. They are frequencies. Your beliefs are not private. They are commands. The mystical traditions didn't teach escapism. They taught mastery, the power of symbols. Symbols are the original language. Before letters, before alphabets, there were shapes and sigils. The circle, the triangle, the spiral, they were more than decoration. They were keys. In ancient temples, symbols weren't just painted on walls, they were carved into stone, vibrating with intention. Those who meditated on them didn't just see, they activated. Today, corporations, governments, religions still use these same symbols. Why? Because the subconscious recognizes them. Because symbols bypass logic and speak directly to the architecture of the code. This is your awakening. To read this is to remember. Some part of you already knows this truth, has felt it in dreams, in déjà vu, in the stillness between thoughts. This is not just a lesson. It is an initiation, the science behind the mysticism. It may sound fantastical, but even science is catching up. Neuroscience reveals how focused thought can reshape the brain, what's called neuroplasticity. Epigenetics shows how beliefs affect gene expression. Cymatics demonstrates how sound creates form. When the ancients spoke of man as a microcosm of the macrocosm, they were referring to this reality. You are a fractal reflection of the entire universe. What you think, feel, and believe radiates outward and interacts with the code. Why now? Because humanity is awakening. There is a global surge of curiosity, a collective remembering. The old systems are cracking. In their place, something ancient is returning, not to enslave, but to liberate. The mystical book you are hearing from now is part of that emergence. A message wrapped in metaphor, decoded in your awareness. You are not here by accident. Practical power. This book is not about blind faith, it is about usable wisdom. Meditation, visualization, ritual, affirmations, these are not wishful thinking. They are precise tools to engage the code. Start by observing patterns. Pay attention to numbers that repeat, dreams that echo real life, words that trigger your intuition. Begin keeping a journal of synchronicities. These are your personal breadcrumbs. As you continue, we will go deeper into these tools. But for now, let it be known. Your awakening has already begun. The ancient code was never truly lost. It lived within you, waiting for this very moment. This is the first key. The veil has lifted. The journey into the mystical book begins now. Chapter 2. The Language of the Universe. Everything in the universe is speaking. We only need to learn how to listen. What if reality isn't just something we see but something that is speaking to us, always, in every moment? Ancient sages, mystics, and esoteric schools across time believed the universe is not silent. They insisted it communicates constantly, not with words, but through symbols, patterns, numbers, and synchronicities. To them, every flicker of light, every geometric shape, every repeating number was part of a cosmic language, a divine Morse code designed not just to inform but to awaken. This is not mysticism alone, it is also science, psychology, and quantum mechanics wrapped into one. Let's explore the ancient belief that the universe has a language, and that your soul already knows how to read it. The silent speech of creation. Before alphabets, before scripts, before even spoken words, early humans used symbols. And not randomly, they carved spirals into cave walls, lined stones with geometric patterns, and created sacred formations with bones, fire pits, and standing stones. Why? Because they were responding to something. To an intuitive pull, a deep recognition. They believed the universe was showing them how it was built, and inviting them to mirror it. In almost every tradition, from the Egyptians with their hieroglyphs to the Druids with their Ogham, from Hindu yantras to Hebrew Kabbalah, the idea was the same: symbols are not decorations. They are formulas, codes, numbers as living beings. Numbers were never meant to be only for counting. In sacred traditions, numbers were alive. They held vibrational value. The number 1 represented unity, the original source. 2 represented duality, light, dark, male, female, spirit, matter. 3 was the divine child, the synthesis, the beginning of creation. And so it continued. The Pythagoreans believed numbers were the essence of all things. To them, studying math was a spiritual act. Music, proportion, and geometry were ways to tune the soul to the frequency of the cosmos. What we call math today, they called magic. And they weren't entirely wrong. Sacred geometry, the blueprint of consciousness. Walk into a cathedral, a mosque, or a pyramid. You'll feel something, a shift in energy, a sense of precision, harmony. That's not coincidence. These spaces were designed using sacred geometry, the divine proportions of the universe. The golden ratio, the Fibonacci spiral, the vesica piscis. These aren't just mathematical quirks. They're fingerprints, patterns that repeat from flower petals to galaxies, from your fingertips to the spirals of hurricanes. Sacred geometry is the skeleton of reality. And when you see these shapes, your subconscious remembers. This is why certain architecture feels holy. Why some art stirs something in you that words cannot describe. It's not what it shows, it's what it resonates with inside you. Sound, the unseen sculptor. Every sound you hear carries a frequency. And every frequency has a form. In a science known as cymatics, researchers vibrate sand or water with sound, and watch as intricate patterns emerge. Circles, stars, mandalas. The higher the frequency, the more complex the pattern. In other words, sound shapes matter. Ancient cultures knew this. Mantras, chants, and sacred names were never casual. They were instruments of creation. Vibrational codes designed to shift energy, open gateways, heal, destroy, and awaken. In the Bible, creation began with the Word. In the Vedas, the universe emerged from a cosmic Om. In Egypt, the god Thoth spoke reality into being. The ancients were telling us, sound is not a byproduct of reality, it's a builder of it. Synchronicity, the universe winks. Have you ever looked at the clock and seen 11:11 again? Thought of someone just as they called? Had a dream that mirrored reality? These aren't coincidences. These are synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that defy logic and linear cause. Carl Jung called them evidence of the collective unconscious. He believed they pointed to a deeper connection between the individual mind and the world itself. In mystical traditions, these moments are called signs, echoes of alignment. When you're on the path, the universe leaves you breadcrumbs. But not in English or Swahili or French. In its own language. Your job isn't to understand immediately, but to recognize the pattern and stay curious. The universe doesn't shout, it whispers. Dreams and the symbolic mind. Why do our dreams speak in strange symbols and metaphors? Because the subconscious mind, the part of you closest to the soul, thinks in symbols. It doesn't use grammar. It paints in emotions, shapes, stories. This is why mystics paid close attention to their dreams. It was believed that in sleep, the soul returns to the astral realms, the blueprint dimension of reality. There, it communicates, receives messages, and even rehearses futures. Modern science agrees. During REM sleep, the brain processes emotion, memory, and creative insight at hyperspeed. Dreams are not nonsense. They are nightly telegrams in divine code. Why you forgot the language? If this language is so ancient, so intuitive, why don't we all understand it naturally? Because you were never taught. Modern education separated logic from intuition, fact from symbol, science from spirit. We were told that only what can be measured matters. Everything else, intuition, signs, inner knowing, was dismissed. But here's the paradox. The more we rely only on logic, the more disconnected we become from the source of meaning itself. The language of the universe is not taught in textbooks. It is remembered in stillness, recovered through observation, reawakened in wonder. Symbols in plain sight. Look around. The world is filled with symbols. The spiral in your fingerprint. The triangle in your eye. The circle in every wheel. But also in the logos we see every day. Corporations, religions, governments, they all use symbols. Not just for design, but because they work. Symbols bypass the conscious mind and go directly into the subconscious. That's why branding uses them. That's why rituals use them. That's why they have power. Every time you encounter a symbol, ask, what does it remind me of? What does it feel like? Don't just see, read. Chapter 3, The Inner Temple, Where Thought Shapes Reality. There exists a temple within you, an invisible sanctum not built with stone or wood, but with thought. While the outer world is the reflection, the blueprint resides inside. This chapter is about the architecture of that temple, and how it shapes the very fabric of your reality. In ancient scrolls and mystery schools, this was known as the sanctum within the sanctum. It was not merely metaphorical. The sages understood, what you believe, you become. What you feel inwardly, you attract outwardly. This law is not moral. It is mechanical, like gravity or magnetism. Everything begins in the mind. Every structure, every conflict, every healing, every downfall, every rising, first a thought, then a form. The ancients did not build temples to worship gods. They built him to mirror consciousness. The carvings on the walls, the sacred numbers in the stonework, the orientation of the structure, they weren't for aesthetics. They were blueprints of the inner world. You are standing in such a temple. It breathes with your thoughts. It vibrates with your emotions. Its walls shift with every belief you hold. The mirror and the mask. Look around your life. Your relationships, your finances, your health, your mood, they are mirrors. Not punishments. Not coincidences. Mirrors. But mirrors only reflect what's visible. Most of us do not see what we project. The stories playing silently in the background, the inner voice of fear, unworthiness, doubt, they echo outward as circumstance. What you suppress becomes your environment. What you idolize becomes your chain. You cannot change the mirror by scratching at the reflection. You must change what stands before it. The inner temple reveals itself when the outer world no longer explains your pain. Many run from this truth because it demands responsibility. It's easier to blame than to build. But the architect knows, if the blueprint is flawed, so will be the house. So too with your inner script. The ancient law of reflection. The Hermeticists knew this. The emerald tablet whispers, as within, so without. As above, so below. This was not poetry, it was instruction. Your inner world creates frequency. Frequency attracts form. This is not positive thinking. This is precision engineering of energy. Every thought emits a tone. Every belief is a spell. The word belief itself comes from belief asterisk, to live within. What you live within becomes the material of your life. It wraps itself around you like air becoming wind, invisible but powerful. And the inverse is also true. When you transform the inner state, the outer world must obey. Not out of magic, but law. The same way fire emits heat, thought emits consequence. Mental alchemy. In the ancient art of alchemy, the goal was never just to turn lead into gold. That was metaphor. The true gold was consciousness transmuted. The base metal was fear, ignorance, and illusion. The philosopher's stone was your awakened awareness. Mental alchemy begins when you stop reacting to life, and begin sculpting it. Emotions are raw materials. You can melt them, mold them, reforge them. Anger becomes clarity, grief becomes compassion, fear becomes fuel, but only when you recognize them not as enemies, but as elements. The inner temple has no locked doors, only forgotten staircases. And like any true alchemist, you must face your own furnace. The place where old patterns are burned away, where ego screams, where silence becomes thunder. If you remain still, something beautiful emerges, not a new belief, but a new being. Imagination, the architect of worlds. Imagination is not childish, it is divine technology. Every ancient mystic knew, the images you hold inside are blueprints. You do not imagine for fun, you imagine to build. The deeper and clearer the image, the stronger the reality it forms. This is why visionaries are feared. Why children see truth in play. Why tyrants seek to control dreams before they control people. The imagination is the front gate to the inner temple. Guard it well. Imagination is the seed vault of possibility. It holds every form your reality can take. But a seed must be planted and nurtured. You cannot plant doubt and expect wonder. You cannot plant fear and expect peace. Train your imagination. Do not let it run wild in panic and despair. Lead it like a disciplined artist. Feed it with beauty, silence, vision. Symbols and sacred architecture. Walk into any cathedral, pyramid, mandir, or ziggurat, and look up. Ancient builders encoded knowledge in angles, stones, proportions, light. Why? Because they knew the outer temple mirrors the inner. Sacred geometry is not aesthetic, it is functional. It awakens dormant memory. When you see the golden ratio, something inside you remembers. Your mind is structured the same way. Sacred architecture is built into your subconscious. It responds to spiral, triangle, circle, not because of culture, but because of creation. So what symbols decorate your inner temple? Scarcity, guilt, or sovereignty, love, and clarity. You must become the sculptor of your own shrine. You must remove the graffiti left by others, the shame of past words, the shadow of old fears. Then, slowly, with intention, place your own sacred symbols. Rewiring the inner blueprint change does not begin with effort. It begins with pattern interruption. You must interrupt the trance of unworthiness, the loop of anxiety, the inherited story. Awareness cracks the spell. Then, you must rewrite. Not with affirmation alone, but with feeling. You cannot chant, "I am whole," while feeling broken and expect results. You must feel the new pattern into being. Embody it, walk with it, build a new altar in your mind. Light a new torch in your cave. The subconscious does not respond to logic. It responds to symbol, repetition, emotion. These are the tools of the mystic engineer. The world is not waiting to change. It is waiting for you to remember you can. The power of silence. Your temple grows in silence. Noise is the enemy of vision. Constant distraction prevents construction. In silence, the bricks appear. The design reveals itself. You begin to hear what is yours, and what is not. Daily silence, even for 5 minutes, is a ritual. Not for rest, but for reception. In silence, you are not empty. You are listening. In silence, the architect speaks. Thought is causative. Every great mystic said it differently. Buddha, with our thoughts, we make the world. Jesus, it is done unto you as you believe. Hermes, all is mind. The Upanishads, you become what you behold. You are not a victim of reality. You are the reality maker, asleep in your own spell. Wake gently. Your thoughts are not harmless. They are sacred architecture. Every time you think, you are chiseling stone into form. You are placing glyphs on the wall. Choose what you build wisely. This is not just mysticism. This is metaphysical engineering. The inner temple is the real temple. You can travel to distant lands. Touch ancient stones. Study sacred texts. But until you enter your own temple, you remain a tourist in wisdom. No master outside you holds a key. They only point. The door is inside. This chapter is your invitation to return home, not to a belief, but to a blueprint. Clean the dust. Light the flame. Sit in stillness. Then ask, what have I built? What have I inherited? What am I ready to redesign? Because thought shapes reality, and you are the architect of the unseen. Chapter 4. The Sacred Architecture of Inner Realms. There comes a point in the seeker's journey when revelation shifts from the external to the internal. No longer do the signs dance solely in the stars or on the surface of the waters, but in the corridors of your own mind, the chambers of your forgotten memory, the blueprints etched in silence within your soul. This is the chapter of return, not a retreat from the world, but a descent into the holy temple within. And like all ancient temples, it is not built with stone, but with awareness, with intention, and with transmutation. The first pillar, awareness as architecture. What if I told you that thought is not invisible? That every idea, emotion, or memory you've ever carried has form. In the astral blueprint, they shape corridors and chambers. Some filled with light, some caved in by years of suppression. This temple you carry within you is not metaphorical. It is symbolic, yes, but also real. Your awareness is the architect. Your emotion is the mortar. Your repetition lays the bricks. The clearer your thoughts, the purer the design. The more unconscious your pain, the more warped the beams. The awakened one does not merely think, they construct. They do not simply react, they design. They do not just remember, they reconfigure. Each moment of mindfulness carves a new threshold. Each breath observed opens another corridor. To live consciously is to shape your temple consciously. The mirror halls of the mind. In this sacred architecture, there are mirrors, not glass, but living reflections woven from memory. One mirror shows your childhood pain, another your ancestral longing. Some are shattered, others hidden behind veils you forgot you hung. But here's the secret, every mirror holds a door. Not out, but inward. To walk the halls of the mind with reverence is to step through each reflection, to witness what was buried, and to rebuild it with intention. This is what the mystics meant when they spoke of inner work. It is not poetry, it is carpentry, it is masonry, it is sacred labor. The seeker becomes a builder, and every reflection a schematic. Blueprints passed in dreams. At night, the veil lifts. Your soul roams the unbuilt halls, guided by what you're ready to remember. Have you ever had a dream of a house you've never seen? Rooms without walls, doors that lead to light. These are not inventions. They are transmissions. Your higher mind sending architectural scrolls to your waking self. But you must awaken not only from sleep, but into presence. Dreams are not to be interpreted. They are to be read, decoded, and reconstructed. A single dream can hold more sacred geometry than volumes of study. A symbol glimpsed in dreamlight may be a keystone, a cornerstone, a message from the self beyond the veil. To journal a dream is to draw a blueprint. To honor it is to receive divine instruction. The hidden room behind the mind. In every sacred structure, there is a hidden chamber, a sanctum sanctorum, a holy of holies. It is not accessed by thought, not by effort, but by stillness. In the center of your mind lies this invisible room, guarded not by angels but by your own resistance. The ego calls it nothingness. The mystic calls it the womb of God. Enter it, and the walls dissolve. There is no ceiling here, no floor, only silence that hums with everything you've forgotten you are. To enter it is not to gain knowledge. It is to shed noise. To remember what was never spoken but always known. Symbols as building blocks. Words are not enough. Your inner architecture is built in symbols. The spiral, the triangle, the eye, the doorway, the flame. Each symbol is a key. Not to decode, but to activate. Place them in your mind's halls as a scribe would inscribe a scroll. Let them become your stained glass, your sacred sigils. The subconscious understands what the tongue forgets. Symbols are not decorations. They are scaffolding for the soul. Every time you meditate on a symbol, you fortify a wall. Every time you trace a glyph in your mind's eye, you unlock a passage. Sacred geometry of emotion. Feelings are not just fleeting moods. They are currents. They etch patterns into your architecture, consciously or unconsciously. Fear corrodes corners. Anger cracks the ceiling. Guilt warps the halls. But gratitude realigns the structure. Silence clears the dust. Presence rebuilds the inner dome. The geometry of emotion is alchemical. It's not about suppressing, but transmuting. Emotion is energy in motion. When honored, it becomes design. When ignored, it becomes damage. To heal is to restore the blueprints with intention. To forgive is to level a crooked beam. To love is to open a stained glass window into the divine. The temple fire, transmutation by light. Every sacred temple carries a flame. Yours is no different. This fire is not made of oxygen, but of attention. When you bring light to a shadow, a memory, a fear, a distortion, you burn it into gold. This is what the ancient alchemists meant by turning lead into gold. The lead was never outside. It was your unexamined thought. The gold is your transmuted mind. Your awareness is the fire. Your courage the bellows. Your presence the sacred wood. Let it burn. Let it purify. Let it illuminate. The dust of old beliefs. In your inner sanctum lie ruins. Old beliefs that no longer serve you. Dusty, decrepit, long abandoned. But here's the danger. Some still whisper. You are not worthy. You are too late. You must earn love. Sweep the floor. Light the corners. Name the old ghosts and lead them home. Belief is a builder. You choose the bricks. You can restore an old altar, or you can build a new. The sacred path is not paved with unquestioned inheritance. It is carved with conscious decision. The echo chamber of collective thought. But you're not the only architect. Every word spoken to you, every dogma you swallowed, every culture you walked through, they left echoes. Some are useful, some are poisonous. All are yours to examine. The sacred architect does not merely build, they edit. To echo is not to agree. To resonate is not to submit. You may carry the music of 100 generations, but your temple has its own song. Find it, sing it, and let it reshape the resonance of your reality. Breath as blueprint ink. Your breath is the original stylus. Each inhale draws new curves. Each exhale lays foundation. When you breathe consciously, you become the monk etching runes into the temple stone. The more you rush, the more the ink bleeds. But in stillness, your breath becomes golden calligraphy. Inhale presence. Exhale architecture. Breathe, and the inner sanctum unfurls. Spiral staircases of return. There is no straight path in sacred construction. Everything sacred spirals. The soul doesn't climb a ladder, it ascends a spiral staircase. You return to the same place again and again, but from a higher vantage. Each return is not regression. It is refinement. Don't be ashamed of cycling back. This is the shape of becoming. The spiral teaches patience. The spiral whispers, there is more than one center. The veiled builders. Sometimes it feels as though you are not alone in this construction. And you're not. There are helpers, not always seen. Call them guides, ancestors, luminous echoes. They appear in synchronicity, in whispers, in intuition. They don't build for you, but they hand you the right stone when you forget. They shine a lantern when you hesitate. They hold a blueprint while you remember. From inner temple to outer change. As within, so without. Your outer world is not a separate realm. It is the echo of your inner temple. Once rebuilt, you will notice your world shifting, subtly at first, then boldly. Doors open, old cycles end, new paths appear, but not because you forced them, because you aligned them within. The architect does not shout the structure into being. They trace the design in silence, and the walls rise. The final room isn't final. There will be a day when you walk the final hallway, thinking, I've reached the center. But the center is not a destination. It is a threshold. Beyond it lies another temple, another dimension, another self. The sacred architect is never finished. The blueprint evolves. The mystery deepens. And the temple expands as you do. You are the temple. You are the flame. Let this be your remembrance. You are not in the temple. You are the temple. You are not tending the flame. You are the flame. Every symbol lives in you. Every glyph remembers you. Every spiral was carved by your own hand in some ancient dream. So now, build with care. Build with awe. Build with love. Because the next soul who enters their temple may see a doorway carved in your light. And through it, they awaken. Chapter 5, The Blueprints of Becoming. The silence that filled the inner sanctum was unlike any the seeker had encountered before. It was not the hush of stillness, nor the quiet of absence. It was the kind of silence that emanates from within, a presence deeper than sound, older than time. There, beyond the known corridors of the temple, far beyond memory and thought, the seeker stepped into a space that felt both newly discovered and anciently familiar. This was not a room constructed from stone and mortar. It was not a place one could map or describe in physical terms. The walls seemed to shimmer, flickering between form and light, as if their substance was made from layered breaths or memories that had learned to hold shape. It was here that the seeker began to see what could not be seen, the hidden architecture beneath existence. They were not alone. From within the vibrating stillness came a presence, not a being with a face or voice, but something vast and conscious. It did not speak with words but with understanding. It filled the room with its presence and offered a knowing that bypassed language. "You have arrived," it said, not with sound, but with certainty. "The temple is not something you find. It is something you remember." The seeker felt the truth of those words pulse through them. Their body no longer felt separate from the space. Each breath stirred patterns on the floor. Each heartbeat echoed outward, activating glowing lines that formed intricate symbols around them. Sacred geometry unfolded, not on scrolls or parchment, but in the air, in the fabric of reality itself. Spirals and triangles, keys and sigils, all emerged and rotated gently in the space around them, as if responding to the seeker's presence. Then came the builders. They arrived not as figures of flesh, but as cloaked intelligences, forms veiled in light, cloaked in purpose. They did not walk into the room. They simply became present. Each one carried in their hands a glowing stone, softly pulsing within a light. These were not stones of the earth. They were memories, or perhaps blueprints, elements of a structure not yet fully formed. The seeker instinctively extended their hands, receiving the stones one by one. Each one vibrated with something the seeker recognized but could not name: sorrow overcome, love yet to be expressed, strength earned through patience, and pain alchemized into purpose. These were not simply relics from the past, they were keys to the next layer of becoming. As the builders placed each stone into the seeker's open hands, the lines between body and temple began to blur. The seeker's back straightened, and their spine lit up as though becoming a staircase. Their ribs expanded, becoming pillars. Their skull tingled with a warm resonance, as if a dome was forming from within. They were no longer simply within the temple, they were becoming it. "You are the sanctuary," the presence whispered. "You are the architecture." The realization struck with a clarity that transcended emotion. The temple was not something external, built and entered. It was a structure of consciousness, formed through breath, intention, sacrifice, and choice. The seeker had never been merely walking toward it, they had been building it with every decision, every awakening, every act of courage. Suddenly, mirrors formed in the chamber. They floated in the air, circular and smooth, each reflecting not the seeker's face, but aspects of their being. One revealed the seeker as a child, reaching for truth. Another as a flame, burning quietly in the dark. A third showed a shadowed form, something waiting to be acknowledged. These mirrors were not meant to be admired or feared. They were reminders. They showed that the seeker was not one identity, but a composition of lifetimes, choices, and echoes. In the presence of the builders, another shift occurred. The ground beneath the seeker opened, not with a crack or collapse, but with an unfolding. A staircase spiraled downward, not into earth, but into essence. It led not into darkness, but into deeper light. Without hesitation, the seeker descended. Each step felt like moving through veils. Past assumptions, past masks, past all the inherited beliefs that had once defined reality. The descent was not about going lower. It was about going inward. At the center, in a space so still it felt like the origin of breath, the seeker encountered the first vibration, the first command that shaped all others. It was not spoken, but known. A single word, not heard by the ears but absorbed by the soul: be. That one syllable carried everything. Within it was birth, fire, memory, movement, stillness, longing, creation. It was not a directive. It was a design, a frequency that had never ceased vibrating. In that moment, a new temple arose. It had no physical form. It was a temple built entirely of meaning. Its foundation was made of pain transformed into wisdom. Its walls were constructed from choices aligned with truth. Its ceilings were laced with stars, not those seen in the sky, but the kind found only in the deep interior cosmos of the awakened mind. The seeker walked its halls not as a guest, but as its builder. Every arch, every curve, every echo had been formed from something they had lived. They were the author and the architecture, the blueprint and the builder. Above them, the ceiling parted, not into air, but into mind. Cosmic diagrams shimmered into view. Galaxies spun like sacred mandalas. Celestial structures floated across the upper vaults, each one radiating an intelligence of its own. Temples beyond number drifted among the stars, each formed from the inner work of a soul somewhere in the vast expanse. The seeker saw that reality was not static, it was designed. And each conscious being was a participant in the grand design. Then, the builders returned. One stepped forward and extended a scroll. But this scroll had no ink, no letters. It was woven from pure emotion, gratitude shaped into curves,